Okay, today I'm wrapping up section 11.2 part 2. So in the previous lecture, we talked about sponges and compared them to cnidarians, and then we talked about the platyhumphines, also known as flatworms, and compared them to annelids. And so I'm going to kind of finish off the invertebrates here and talk about the mollusks and the annelids and the arthropods. So the mollusks belong to the phylum Mollusca, and they have bilateral symmetry. Soft bodies. Some do have some hard shells because snails belong to phylum Mollusca. They have a digestive system with two openings, which means a mouth and an anus. They have a body cavity with organs, circulatory system, but they don't have vessels, so therefore they have open circulatory systems. They do, however, have a nervous system with brains and an eye, and some of these creatures can be very intelligent, especially like octopus. They also live in moist environments. So examples of mollusks are snails, slugs, clams, mussels, octopi, and squid. So you know, Safari isn't going to make it work. So I got to copy and paste.
I have to admit I was screaming when I got this video thing.
What makes a marine biologist scream? Roger Hanlon captured this about 10 years ago. He was doing a study in the Caribbean and he'd been following this octopus for about an hour. When it crept behind the rock and went into camouflage mode, he
jammed the camera down right in its face, so to speak,
prompting it to go from camouflage to a startle defense.
Blanching white very quickly.
And then inking him.
But I followed the animal and finished the dive, and I popped at the surface. It was only about 5 feet deep, and I screamed bloody murder, and they thought I was having a dive accident.
When actually, he was having...
It was a eureka moment, there's no doubt about it.
And that's because Hanlon is trying to understand just how camouflage works in cephalopods.
Yes, cephalopods, squid, octopus, and cuttlefish.
They are masters of optical illusion.
They are the animals best known to go anywhere in camouflage. No animal comes even close to the speed and diversity of appearances of this animal.
And they have a few tricks at their disposal. Octopus and cuttlefish can change their skin texture.
This is the only animal group we know of that has fine control of its skin to create the bumpiness.
And they match their skin dimensionality by sight, not by touch, which is a
vexing visual perception question.
And of course, they change color. So here's an octopus
doing what we call the moving rock trick.
I'm a rock, I'm a rock. Now watch this.
So the amazing thing is that these animals are colorblind, yet they are capable of creating color-matched patterns. But we don't know how.
But of course Hanlon would like to. And one way he's studying this is by looking closely at squid skin. That's what you're seeing here.
These are super close-up images of live, unanesthetized squid.
And those dots of pigment are called chromatophores. They come in 3 colors.
Yellow, red, and brown. But there are reflectors under the pigments, and the reflectors produce the short wavelengths, the blues and the greens.
And as you can see, the chromatophores can change shape to change the predominant skin color.
Each one of those little spots on there can expand up to 15 times its diameter.
And these chromatophores seem to be twitching all the time.
They camouflage all night long. They don't sleep as far as we know.
That's because cephalopods, with their squishy bodies, rely on camouflage as their main protection from predators. But of course, camouflage is not just color, it's also pattern. This is one of Hanlon's major hypotheses.
We found only 3 to 4 basic pattern templates that they use to achieve all this camouflage.
So there's uniform.
By uniform, we mean that there's little or no contrast in the pattern.
There's mottle.
Mottle is small-scale light and dark splotches.
And disruptive, and the idea there is
to interfere with the recognition of what the animal is.
Based on lab studies, Hanlon says that the animals flash particular patterns based on a few visual cues they encounter in the environment. Hanlon wouldn't call it a reflex because so much visual analysis is involved.
But it is very fast.
The palette and pattern changing in less than a second. But just why these patterns work is still kind of a mystery. Let's take the octopus video again. Hanlon analyzed this video frame by frame, but he can't tell you why you don't see the animal.
We can't find any true statistical matches, whether it's brightness, color, between the animal and the background. So camouflage is not looking exactly like the background.
Camouflage just means fooling whatever's looking at you, which suggests
we're behind the 8 ball, as it were, if we think the world looks like how we see it. There's much more information there, and other animals see it very differently.
For Science Friday, I'm Flora Lichtman.
All right, so pretty cool that octopi can camouflage, but they're also pretty intelligent creatures too. They can problem solve, and you know, a lot of them are escape artists in aquariums. Annelids belong to the phylum Annelida. Again, bilateral symmetry, soft bodies with repeating segments. So a lot of segmentation going on here. Very thin cuticle, not a thick cuticle compared to the Nematoda that we discussed, I think, yesterday. The digestive system, again, with 2 openings, a mouth and an anus. Circulatory system with blood vessels. So we have a closed circulatory system here. Moist environment, you know, if they can dry out and die. So earthworms, leeches, marine worms are great examples of that.
To fly a rocket ship, you need to be an optimist. No astronaut.
Spring has sprung, and along with more frequent sightings of flowers and raindrops, you may find yourself crossing paths with a few earthworms. Here are 10 little-known facts about them. Number 10. They can get big. Australia is home to the giant Gippsland earthworm, a variety that can grow to be 3 feet long. Luckily, it makes an odd gurgling sound at times, so it may be possible to hear it coming. Number 9. Cut pieces don't always become new whole worms.
I am a happy earthworm, now that I am too.
Depending upon where the worm was cut and how big the remaining pieces are, it may be able to regrow some parts. Oftentimes, though, what they end up with isn't as functional as what they had. Number 8. There are more than 7,000 species. Close to 200 of them live in the U.S. Over 50 of those are considered to be invasive. Number 7. Earthworms breathe through their skin. They have no lungs or other respiratory organs, but that's really for the best, as they do spend most of their time underground surrounded by soil. Their skin is no match for rain, however, as earthworms are prone to drowning. Number 6. They're hermaphroditic. Even though each of them has both male and female reproductive organs, they still mate with other worms. Number 5. Earthworms eat a lot. On a daily basis, they consume about 1/3 of their body weight in food. Their meal of choice is soil that's chock full of decayed organic matter. Number 4. They like the dark. Earthworms burrow up to 6.5 feet underground. Typically, they only venture above the surface at night. That's how they've earned the nickname night crawlers. Number 3. Finding the head is actually easy. It's the end closest to the wide band that wraps around them. Conversely, as they move both backwards and forwards, direction of travel is not a good indicator of which end is which. Number 2. North America is new territory. The worms hailed from Europe and didn't come to this continent until explorers and settlers started to arrive. At the time, ships balanced their weight with dirt, and with the soil came the earthworms. Number 1. They've proven to be quite useful. The burrowing habits of earthworms help aerate soil and move nutrients around. Plus, they're an excellent food source for birds.
Some fun facts about earthworms. Alright, comparing mollusks, annelids, no blood vessels, they have a body cavity, but over here, thin cuticle, blood vessels, repeating body segments, but a lot in common here. They both have a mouth and an anus. They both have bilateral symmetry, circulatory system, nervous system, digestive system, and they live in moist environments. Okay, another phylum that belong to the invertebrates, no backbone, are arthropods. Again, they also have bilateral symmetry, but the common characteristic that stands out is that they have an exoskeleton, which is a very thick, hard outer covering that protects and supports the body. They also have a lot of appendages, like several, that extend from the central part of their body. It could be arms, legs, or wings. So insects are arthropods. They are the largest order. They have 3 pairs of jointed legs. Okay, so 6 legs total. They have 3 body segments, a head, thorax, and an abdomen. They have a pair of antennae, and they also have a pair of compound eyes. So if they have all of these parts, then it would be considered the order Insecta or insects. Arachnids, which are spiders and ticks and mice. 4 pairs of legs. So they're still arthropods. They're not insects. They are considered arachnids. 2 body segments. Their head and their thorax is fused. You call it a cephalothorax. And then the second body part is the abdomen. No antenna or wings. Examples are spiders, ticks, and scorpions. Crustaceans also belong to the phylum Arthropoda. 1 or 2 pairs of antennae, it varies. They have jointed appendages in the mouth region for biting and crushing. And examples are crabs, shrimp, and lobsters. The last phylum I'm going to discuss is the phylum Echinodermata, or Echinoderms. The name Echinoderm literally means spiny skin. They have radial symmetry, whereas with all these other organisms, they had basically bilateral symmetry except for mollusca. Actually, mollusca, some of them have radial symmetry and some have bilateral. But anyways, 2 feet that allow them to move, complete digestive systems. They live in the oceans, so sea stars, sea cucumbers, sea urchins, they all belong to the phylum Echinoderm or Echinodermata. All right, so I believe you guys have a 11.2 worksheet that is due tomorrow, but that does it for section 11.2 invertebrates. We will carry on with vertebrates next week.